My sister laughed when I arrived late to family dinner, and I realized they'd started without me. The laugh hit me before I even got both feet over the threshold, sharp, bright like a glass clinking too hard. I was still half outside, one hand on the door, the other clutching the foil tray I'd promised to bring, heat bleeding through the aluminum into my palm. The house smelled like roasted garlic and something sweet that made my stomach drop, because it meant they'd been eating for a while. I stood there with my coat unzipped and my hair frizzed from the drizzle, blinking at the sight of plates already scraped, wine glasses half empty, my dad leaning back in his chair like the important part of the evening had already happened. My sister tipped her head back and laughed again, loud enough that everyone looked at me, and she said, "Oh my God, you actually showed up. We thought you were doing your little thing." She made a vague circle with her finger like she couldn't decide whether to mean my job, my life, or my personality. My mom didn't stand, didn't even pretend to be surprised. She just patted the chair beside her chair because she had already pulled it closer to my dad, like she was offering a dog a spot on the rug. "Sit," she said, not unkindly, but not kindly either. "Food's on the counter. You can heat it." It was a Tuesday night when I got the text, "Family dinner at 7. Don't be late." It had come from my sister, of course, because somehow she'd appointed herself the scheduler of everyone's lives. We've always had these dinners. Used to be Sundays when I was a kid, then it turned into whenever my mom decided she missed the idea of family more than the reality of it. I said yes without thinking because yes is the setting my mouth defaults to around them. Then traffic happened, and then the rain started, and then my phone died at the exact moment I was trying to GPS around a crash. And by the time I pulled into their driveway, it was 7:18, and my heart was already thudding like I'd done something wrong before I even stepped inside. Here's the thing, though. I didn't even know I was late in the way they meant. I was late by 18 minutes. 18, not 2 hours. Not, "We saved you a plate, and then you didn't show." I'd called my mom from the car the second my phone turned back on. It went to voicemail. I texted my sister, running a bit behind, almost there. She didn't respond. Now, standing in the doorway with my hands stinging from the hot tray, I was looking at the evidence that they hadn't just started without me. They decided I was an optional character. I forced my feet forward because the alternative was to turn around and leave, and I could already hear the story they'd tell about that. So dramatic. So sensitive. Can't take a joke. The floorboards creaked under me like they were announcing my entrance. My niece, 6 years old, still in that age where her face is honest, stared at me with pasta sauce on her chin and said, "Annie, why didn't you come when we started?" Like I'd missed the beginning of a movie on purpose. My sister smirked and said, "Because they have main character syndrome." My dad snorted into his wine. My mom gave that thin little smile that means, "Please don't make this hard on me." I set the tray down on the edge of the counter, and my fingers tingled in relief. There was a stack of dirty pans in the sink. There was a serving spoon lying in a puddle of gravy. There was the remains of a salad, limp and glossy. My mouth went dry because I realized I didn't see a place setting for me on the table. Not even an empty plate. "Where do you want me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice normal. My sister pointed to the end of the table. The far end. The chair that wobbles. The chair they always give to someone who's just popping in. It was such a small thing that almost didn't register, except my whole life has been built out of small things like that. Tiny adjustments that add up to a shape you can't ignore. I pulled the chair out anyway. The leg screeched, and my dad winced like I caused a noise on purpose. "You could have told us you'd be late," my mom said, reaching for her water like she needed something to do with her hands. "I did," I said. "I texted." My sister waved her fork. "You texted at 7:12. I was stuck behind a crash." "Uh-huh." She made a face like I'd said I was delayed because a unicorn asked me for directions. My dad cleared his throat. "We were hungry. People have schedules." I looked at him, and for a second, I almost laughed because I was the one who had driven across town after work with my shoulders aching. I was the one holding tray that had burned my hand. I was the one who had tried to communicate. But the laugh didn't come. Instead, I felt my chest tighten, like a belt being pulled one notch too far. "Okay," I said quietly. "I'll heat something up." My mom stood halfway, like she might help, then sat again. "It's fine." There's leftovers. Leftovers. Like I was a guest who'd arrived after the party. As I opened the fridge, cold air hit my face, and I stared at containers stacked like evidence. There was a Tupperware of chicken already picked apart. A bowl of mashed potatoes with a scoop missing. Someone had wrapped up the good bread in foil. There was a slice of pie in a plastic clamshell with someone else's fork marks on it, like they'd already decided what was worth saving and what wasn't. Behind me, the conversation kept going without lowering its volume, like I wasn't even in the room. And then she said if he's serious, he needs to propose, my sister was saying. My mom made a delighted sound. Well, she's right. It's about time. My dad said he's not good enough. My sister laughed again. Dad, he has a job. It's already a step up from. And then she lowered her voice just slightly, but not enough, and I heard my name like a pebble thrown at the back of my head. I froze with the fridge door open. The light inside made everything look too bright, too exposed. I could feel my face get hot. I shut the door gently because if I slammed it, it would become a whole thing. I pulled out a plate and scraped together what I could. The microwave beeped too loudly, and it felt like it was announcing, "Here's your portion. Here's your place." When I sat down at the wobbly chair, my sister was mid-story, hands flying, her ringless fingers flashing. My niece was drawing something in ketchup on her plate. My mom's lipstick had worn off unevenly. My dad's eyes were glassy in that way they get when he's had enough wine to feel brave. "We actually didn't think you were coming," my sister said, like she was offering me a fun fact. I stared at my plate. My fork shook a little. I set it down and wrapped my hand around my water glass to steady myself. The glass was cold, and my fingers clung to it like it was the only solid thing in the room. I said I was coming, I replied. My sister leaned her elbow on the table. "Yeah, but you say a lot of things." My mom jumped in too fast. "Honey, don't start." I looked at my mom. "I'm not starting anything." My dad snorted. "You always start something. You get that from your grandmother." He said it like it was a diagnosis. It would be funny, maybe, if it wasn't my actual life. I took a bite of lukewarm chicken. It tasted like salt and humiliation. They kept talking. My sister kept laughing. And then, in that lull that happens when everyone pauses to drink or chew, my mom put her napkin down like she was preparing for something formal. "Okay," she said too brightly. "Since we're all here." My stomach dropped. That's why the text had been so specific. That's why my sister had been the one to summon us. This wasn't dinner. This was a meeting. My sister's eyes flicked to me, and there was something there. Anticipation, almost glee, like she'd been waiting to watch my reaction. My mom continued, "We need to talk about Nana." I stopped chewing. The food turned to paste in my mouth. My grandmother, Nana, had been declining for months. Dementia, the slow, cruel kind where she still recognizes you one day and then calls you by a dead aunt's name the next. I've been the one taking her to appointments because my schedule was more flexible, which in family language means more disposable. I've been the one calling the pharmacy, the one setting alarms for her meds, the one sitting with her when she cried because she couldn't remember how to work her kettle. My sister had visited twice. My dad said, "She can't live alone anymore." "I know," I said because I'd been the one saying it for months. My mom nodded. "We've been looking at options." My sister cut in. "We found a really good facility." I looked at her. "You did?" She smiled like a cat. "We." My mom reached across and squeezed my hand, like a preemptive apology. "It's expensive." There it was, the word that always changes the air. My dad said the house is the issue. "Nana's house?" I asked. My sister's smile widened. "Yeah, the house. We need to make some decisions." My throat tightened. Nana's little house was modest, but it was hers. It was where she kept her old photo albums and the ugly ceramic rooster she loved and the quill she'd sewn for my mom's childhood dresses. It was where she still believed she'd always be safe. "We can sell it," my dad said bluntly, like he was talking about a car. My stomach clenched. "Have you talked to Nana about that?" My sister laughed. Again, always the laugh. "She doesn't even know what day it is." My mom winced. "Don't." My dad waved her off. "It's the truth. Someone needs to be realistic." I swallowed hard. I could feel my heart beating in my throat. Who's we in this? Because I'm the one who has power of attorney. Silence felt like a blanket. My niece looked up, sensing the shift even if she didn't understand it. My sister's eyes glittered. Yeah, she said softly. About that. My skin went cold. What do you mean about that? My mom's gaze darted between us. My dad's jaw tightened. My sister reached into her bag, designer of course, and pulled out a manila folder like she'd rehearsed this. She slid it across the table toward me. The folder scraped against the wood. I didn't touch it. We think it would be better, she said, if the power of attorney changed. Just temporarily. My fingers went numb. Changed to who? She tilted her head. Me. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. None came. You don't even go with her to appointments, I said, and my voice sounded too loud in the quiet room. My sister shrugged. Because I have a life. But I can handle paperwork. My dad said, she's right. This has gotten too complicated. My mom whispered, it's not that we don't appreciate you. It's just what? I snapped, and then I hated myself for snapping because it made me sound exactly like the version of me they paint. My sister's mouth curled. It's just that you're emotional. You get attached. Nana needs decisions, not feelings. I felt my whole body start to shake, not with rage exactly. More like something inside me was finally exhausted from holding itself together. You want to sell our house, I said slowly, and you want me to sign it over to you. My sister's voice got syrupy. We want what's best for Nana. And what's best for you? I said before I could stop myself. My dad slammed his palm on the table, hard enough that the glasses jumped. Watch your mouth. My niece squeaked and pushed back from the table. My mom reached for her. Sweetie, go wash your hands. My niece hesitated, looking between us, and then she ran off, little socked feet thumping down the hall. The sound of her leaving made everything feel even uglier, like we'd done this in front of an innocent witness. My sister took advantage of the moment. Look, she said, Nana doesn't need a house. She needs care. The house is an asset. We sell it. We pay for her care, and then what? I demanded. She blinked. And then we move on, like Nana was a problem to be managed. My mom finally looked me in the eyes. We can't afford this otherwise. I breathed in, and the air felt too thin. There are other options. Government support, home care packages. My dad scoffed. Paperwork. Waiting lists. She needs something now. I looked at the folder again, and dread crawled up my spine. What did you do? My sister's expression flickered, just for a second. Nothing. We're just being proactive. I grabbed the folder then because I had to. My hands were sweaty and my fingers slipped on the paper. Inside were documents, copies of Nana's deed, a printout of estimated care costs, and then something that made my vision blur. A form, partially filled. Power of attorney change request, with my name typed in, and a signature line that looked like someone had tried to copy my handwriting. I actually felt dizzy, like the room had tilted. What is this? I whispered. My mom's face went pale. My sister leaned forward, eyes bright. It's a draft. Don't be dramatic. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear in my ears. That's my signature, I said, and my voice cracked. That's someone tried to. My dad stood abruptly, chair scraping. Sit down. I stood too, legs trembling. Did you forge my signature? My sister's smile disappeared. Oh my God. My mom's hands flew up. No one forged anything. It's right there, I said, holding up the paper like proof in court. It's literally right there. My dad stepped closer to me, looming. You think your sister would commit a crime? My throat burned. I think someone did. My sister's cheeks flushed, but she didn't look guilty the way I expected. She looked offended, like I'd wronged her by noticing. You always have to make yourself the victim, she hissed. We're trying to help Nana, and you're making this about you. I felt something inside me snap, not in a dramatic movie way, more like a thread finally giving out after being pulled too tight for too long. No, I said quietly. I'm making it about Nana. You're making it about control. My dad's face twisted. You're not stable enough for this responsibility. I laughed then, one short, ugly sound because it was either that or cry. Not stable enough? I've been the one doing everything. My mom's eyes filled. Please, can we not do this tonight? But it was already done. My hands were shaking as I flipped through the folder. There were more pages. Notes. A list of assets. Nana's jewelry. Nana's savings. A line that said, "Sell house ASAP before value drops." I looked up at my sister. "You wrote this?" She crossed her arms. "So what if I did?" Someone has to be practical. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. You don't get to be practical with her life like it's a spreadsheet. My dad said, low and dangerous, "Give me that folder." I clutched it tighter. "No." My mom reached toward me. "Sweetheart, please. You're upset." "I'm upset because you try to go behind my back," I said, and my voice rose. "You try to forge my signature." My sister rolled her eyes. "Nobody forged anything. It was just a draft. We were seeing what it would look like." "You practiced my signature," I shot back. My sister's lip curled. "Maybe if you answered your phone, we wouldn't have to." That hit harder than it should have, because it was such a perfect little summary of how they always do this. Create a situation, then blame me for reacting to it. I realized then, standing there with a folder in my hands, my chicken turning cold on my plate, that the late text, the unanswered calls, the fact that they'd already started dinner, it wasn't just rudeness. It was strategy. They wanted me off balance. They wanted me to walk into a room where everyone was already settled, already aligned, already prepared to tell me what reality was. And I was supposed to just accept it. My sister glanced at my mom. My mom glanced at my dad. They'd rehearsed this like lines. My dad said, "You need to think about what you're doing. Nana needs care. Do you want her suffering because you're stubborn?" My stomach twisted. "Don't you dare put that on me." My sister said, "If you care so much, sign it over. Let someone who can handle it." I stared at her, really stared, and I saw something I'd been refusing to see. She wasn't asking. She was expecting. She'd already decided. She'd already planned a future where Nana's house was money, and money was freedom, and I was the obstacle who needed to be managed. My hands tightened around the folder until my knuckles hurt. "I'm not signing anything," I said, voice shaking but clear. My dad's eyes narrowed. "Then you're choosing conflict." "No," I said, and I surprised myself with how steady I sounded. "You're choosing conflict. You chose it when you started dinner without me. You chose it when you didn't answer my calls. You chose it when you typed my name under a forged signature." My mom made a small sound like she'd been slapped. My sister's voice sharpened. "Stop saying forged. You're being insane." I took a step back, the chair legs scraping behind me. My body felt like it was buzzing, adrenaline and heartbreak tangled together. "I'm taking this," I said, lifting the folder. My dad stepped forward. "You will not." I didn't think. I just moved, quick and clumsy, grabbing my coat from the hook by the door. My tray was still on the counter. My food was still on the table. My presence was still an inconvenience. My mom rushed after me, whispering, "Please don't do this. Not like this." I turned toward her, and for a second, I saw the version of her I sometimes still want to believe exists. The mom who used to braid my hair, who used to make hot chocolate when I was sick. But behind her, my sister stood with her arms crossed, smug and furious, and my dad's face was hard as stone. "I'm not doing anything," I said to my mom. "I'm leaving," my sister called after me. "You're going to ruin Nana's care because you're jealous I'm better at this than you." That one landed like a punch. Jealous. Better. As if Nana was a prize. I opened the door, and cold air hit my face, sharp and clean compared to the heavy house. My eyes stung. The rain had stopped, but everything was wet, reflecting porch light like the world had been varnished. Behind me, my dad said, "If you walk out, don't come crying to us later." I paused on the step, my hand on the railing, and I realized my whole life I'd been trying to earn a seat at that table. A real seat. A plate that wasn't leftovers. A welcome that didn't depend on me being convenient. I didn't turn around. "I won't," I said. Then I walked to my car, folder pressed to my chest like a shield, and the moment I shut the door, the tears came fast and hot, fogging up the windshield. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely get the key into the ignition. The drive home is mostly a blur. I remember stopping at a red light and seeing my own face in the rearview mirror. Puffy eyes, jaw clenched, that look I get when I'm trying not to collapse. My phone buzzed. One text from my sister, "You're being pathetic." Another from my mom, Please call me. A missed call from my dad that I didn't answer. When I got home, I sat on my couch with the folder open on my lap, flipping through every page like it might change if I looked hard enough. The more I read, the worse it got. Not just the signature practice, there were emails printed out. Emails between my sister and a real estate agent, dated last week, with language like, when we sell, and once the papers are sorted. There was a note about timing it before the market dips. It was also casual, like Nana was already gone. I felt sick. I called Nana's neighbor, because Nana still has neighbors who actually care, and asked if anyone had been by the house. The neighbor hesitated, then said, "Your sister was here yesterday with a man in a suit. They walked around the yard." I thought you knew. I hung up and stared at the wall for a long time, the kind of stare where you're not really seeing anything. You're just letting the truth rearrange itself inside you. Then I called the lawyer who helped set up the power of attorney. My voice sounded too calm on the phone, like it belonged to someone else. I said, "I need to report a concern." I didn't say the word forgery yet, because part of me still couldn't believe I was saying it about my own family. But the lawyer got quiet in a way that made my skin prickle, and he said, "Bring everything in tomorrow." That night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my sister laughing in the doorway, like I was entertainment. I heard my dad saying I wasn't stable enough. I heard my mom saying leftovers like it was normal. I kept thinking they planned this. And then, worse, they didn't think I mattered enough to hide it well. The next morning, my mom showed up at my door. I hadn't told her my address when I moved, but of course she knew it anyway. She looked small standing on my doormat, hair unwashed, eyes rimmed red like she'd cried too. She held a bag of muffins like that could patch a broken foundation. "I didn't know she did that," she said immediately before I even invited her in. I didn't know about the signature thing. I stepped aside and let her in because I still have that reflex, even now. She sat at my kitchen table and twisted her fingers. "We're desperate," she whispered. "Your dad is scared. The care costs." "So you thought fraud was the answer?" I asked, and my voice was sharper than I meant. She flinched. No. I thought your sister said it was just paperwork. She said you were refusing to help. You still here. I've been helping for months." "I know," she said, but her "I know" sounded like I know in the way people say "I know" when they don't want to admit what that means. I slid the folder across the table. "Look," my mom opened it. Her eyes skimmed the pages. I watched her face change. First confusion, then something like shock, then a slow, sinking grief. "Oh," she whispered, hand flying to her mouth. "Oh my God." I waited. Part of me wanted her to burst into rage on my behalf. Part of me wanted her to finally choose me. Instead, she looked up with tears in her eyes and said, "We can fix this. Not she can fix this. Not your sister did something wrong. Just we can fix this, like the family is always one big organism, and I'm supposed to sacrifice myself for its survival." "What does fix mean?" I asked. She swallowed. "Maybe you apologize for leaving. Maybe we all sit down calmly and—" I laughed because I couldn't help it. Apologize for leaving a dinner I wasn't welcome at? My mom's voice got pleading. "Please, don't tear the family apart." That sentence did something to me. It was like a switch flipped, and suddenly I saw it clearly. In her mind, the family was a vase already cracked, and my job was to keep holding it together even if it cut my hands. "I'm not tearing anything apart," I said quietly. "They did, and you let them." My mom started crying then, real crying, shoulders shaking, and I felt that familiar wave of guilt rise up, the one that always tries to drown my anger. But underneath, it was something new, a small, solid sense of reality, like I was finally standing on my own feet. "I'm going to protect Nana," I said. "That's what I'm doing." My mom wiped her cheeks. "Your dad will never forgive you." I looked at her, and the sad part was, I believed her. And the other sad part was, I didn't know if I cared anymore. After she left, my sister started blowing up my phone. Voicemails, texts, all escalating. "You're insane. You're ruining everything. You always think you're the hero. Then, Dad says you're dead to him. Then, if Nana goes into a bad place because of you, that's on you." I read them until my eyes went blurry. Then I muted her. My hands shook when I did it, like I was committing a crime. I took the folder to the lawyer. He looked at the signature line and didn't even hesitate. He said, "This is serious." He said, "Don't confront them alone." He said, "We can put safeguards in place." He also said something that stuck with me. People often do this when they feel entitled. Entitled. That word fit like a key. Now it's been a week. Nana is still in her house, with extra home care that I organized through a program my sister insisted didn't exist because she didn't want to wait. I'm spending my evenings at Nana's, making sure the carers show up, making sure she eats, making sure she doesn't wander outside in the rain. Nana keeps asking where my sister is. I tell her she's busy. Nana pats my hand and says, "You're a good one." Then she forgets she said it, and she says it again later like a brand new thought, and it breaks my heart every time. My dad hasn't spoken to me. My sister posted a vague Facebook status about betrayal from the people you do the most for, which is almost impressive in its audacity. My mom keeps texting me things like, "We're still family," like that's supposed to mean something on its own. And I'm sitting here wondering if I'm actually the monster they're painting me as. Because part of me feels strong for finally saying no, and another part of me feels like a scared kid who just got sent to their room while everyone else eats dessert. I keep replaying that moment at the door, the laugh, the already empty plates, the chair at the far end, and I can't unsee it now. It wasn't about being late. It was about them already living a version of the night where I didn't matter. So I don't know what I'm asking for here. Maybe I just needed to put it somewhere outside my head. Maybe I need someone to tell me I'm not crazy. Or maybe I need someone to tell me the hard truth. That you can't fix a family that's willing to forge your name and then laugh while you walk in carrying dinner.